Alright folks, not sure if you know what this is, but it says Stihl, and it is a chainsaw sharpener. And so kind of basic, excuse the workbench here, but it has a depth adjustment here. It has the cutting tooth adjustment here, the chain of whatever length, width you're working on slides in the track. This stopper holds the tooth, and then the cutting wheel, as you can see, drops down in there. Obviously, well, that's the wrong one. Okay, so there's the cutting tooth. You see how that drops in there, and that will sharpen that tooth. Has adjustments here all the way 55 degrees in one direction, 55 degrees in the other direction. The grinding wheels are put on. This is reverse thread. You can see it says left there, and it's in pretty good shape. I got it mounted to the workbench. You can take it off, move it around. It's actually shoved in this tight little corner here, and it works pretty well. You get full range of motion here, and you can see it barely clears the gun safe there, but it's an older model. It works well, and we'll take you through some sharpening here. Now, some of the other ones that I've seen have all the same adjustments, but the Harbor Freight one has some plastic here. This is all metal, except for this tray here rotates around. Actually, that's a metal too. So most people are grinding somewhere between 30 degrees and 25 degrees. And from all the research I've done with regard to what degree to cut it at, it is kind of dependent on whether you're cutting hardwood or softwood. And so on a softwood, a longer or more extreme angle, I guess you'd say, a 30-degree cut is more beneficial. But if you're cutting hardwood, oak, eucalyptus, or something like that, I've heard that if you sharpen at 25 degrees, that broader cutting tooth tends to not dull as quickly. So I don't know how effectively it is in cutting, but I've experienced it myself with regard to the cutting angle and the broader cut on the sawtooth, or the more less of an angle, does well under hardwoods. It just is not that the tip on the edge of the tooth there is not as sharp and doesn't get as rounded as quickly. But you can see there it's got some pretty good adjustments in every direction. It'll sharpen any size chain. I got some other chains up here, quite a few bars. I don't know, probably 6 or 8 bars up there, some chains. And I just kind of go through them. Sometimes I'll sharpen a friend's saw, sometimes other stuff. But right now, we're working on the 201T. Got it all cleaned up, ready for the season here. And it's in pretty good shape. Now we're going to work on sharpening the old chainsaw for it. Alright. Okay, I've got you back now. I made all the adjustments because I just couldn't do it with one hand holding the camera. But what I typically do is I will first set the depth, which is the black knob up here, which basically just restricts how deep the cutting wheel can go. And obviously you don't want it to cut into the chain itself. You're just trying to sharpen the tooth, but you do want it to get deep enough to get all the way in there. So that looks pretty good there. The second thing I'll do is eyeball it, and let me see if I can do this with one hand and still give you guys a look here. So drop it all the way down and get the tooth right up against the grinding wheel right there like that, and then cinch down the lock here, and then when you rotate the saw, the chain through there, you pull it back here, cinch that part down, and then the saw is pretty well locked in there. It's not going to move. Some of the Harbor Freight ones, you'll find that some people hold this part down or have to hold tension back on here because this doesn't cinch down tight enough. But obviously the Stihl Sharpner is good. So the other thing you don't want to do, you don't want to heat up the tooth for sure. You don't want to get blue tooth, I think is what they call it. And you also shouldn't be throwing a whole lot of sparks off of here. It should be there's finesse to it without a doubt. You can't just drop this thing down and have sparks flying out. There's a ton of YouTube videos if you want to learn how to do that. But what you're really trying to do is preserve the tooth. It has a certain length, and every time you grind it, you take some away. And depending on how much you take away, is how many times you can sharpen the tooth. Now, I'm going to take as little as I can. This chain's not in bad condition, and I can't remember if I sharpened it at the end of last year. I probably did, but I'm going to try to give you guys a little tutorial here. But let's see if we can barely take some. Okay, so you see that? Not a whole lot came off. And I'll tell you one little secret. And more so with the Chicago brand, I think it is, from the other company, because I do have one of those that I've used before. This will flex a little bit, and you can pull it. Like if I pull the handle down and pull it this way, I can get a little bit more grind on that tooth if I want. And conversely, if too many sparks are coming off, I can push it away from the tooth and get a little relief on there. There's not a lot, but you can see it's down here, it's not touching. I'll pull it a little bit and it'll get a little bit more. So you can cheat a little bit by doing that and get some super fine adjustments in it, but we're going to skip. As you know, chains have opposite teeth, so we're doing every other tooth, and let's see if we get how much we get on this one. Okay, so that one's good. Try to do this with one hand, sorry, and get a good light in there for you. Okay, yep, all right. So obviously, you want to use finesse with this. You don't want to be chopping off a lot of material off the tooth, because you want to obviously use this saw or this chain for as long as you can. And there's no reason to burn through it. It'll heat it up, it'll take off more material, and you're not going to get a lot out of it. So let me buzz through the rest of this side, and then I'll bring you back for when I flip this over to the 30 degrees on the other side. Okay, I'm back. Finished up that side. Now, if you don't know, some saws come with a different colored tooth here when they put them together, and it's usually the spot where the two teeth face the same direction. That's where they splice the chain together when it comes off the spool. So, usually a good starting reference. Anything else, other than that, really has no purpose, but when you're sharpening, it gives you a good starting point. Now for this, we're going to go back the other way. I'm going to spin this around to 30 degrees the other way. Lock it in here. And the other thing you need to do, this one has this piece moves back, depending on what direction tooth you're working on, and we'll go through the same process here. I'm trying to do this stupidly here, but go through the process with the other direction. Now, same concept. You don't need to take a whole lot of material off. This chain is not in bad shape. This is more like what you might call an administrative type of Sorry for the herky-jerky camera thing. I'm just trying to do this with one hand. So let me go through this and then I'll bring you up at the closure. Alright, that literally took me about a minute and a half. And we're all sharp. Let's get it out of this track here. Let me take a look at it. So you can tell that's pretty sharp right there. And chain's in good shape. It's a 14-inch chain, so I'm not trying to brag that it took me, you know, a minute and a half to do that, but it's pretty quick with this. So anyway, that's the Stihl Sharpner, and this model here you can see is made in West Germany, and overall great shape, runs like a champ. The wheels, now interesting thing about the wheels before we get out of here is maybe you can tell, I don't know if you can or not, but there's a bit of a angle to this. It's not a perfect edge on this thing, and as it wears, it'll wear in the direction that it's cutting, so it's not going to be completely rounded. It's going to be beveled. In this case, it's beveled to this down here and then down there, and all that is just the direction you're cutting. You can flip the wheel around and get it the other way, but these wheels come in different widths, so a smaller width for a smaller chain, wider width for, you know, a skip tooth chain with a big tooth and stuff like that. But this one's right in the middle, and the thinner ones, you know, I just don't change them out that often. I'm not a professional. I'm just a backyard kind of guy, so if I did it for a living, yeah, I'd probably change them out because they wear properly and cut perfectly. But for my purposes, I don't need that, and I'm delicate enough with it that I don't take off too much material and it cuts straight. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. This is the Stihl chainsaw chain grinder. I don't see a model number, but you can see it's pretty cool looking, and it really doesn't take that much bench space up. You can see I got my reloading crap there, and it fits right here on the edge of the bench. 2 bolts, one right there, one right on the other side. Try to keep it clean, and it does good for me. So anyway, enjoy. Let me know if you got any questions. Stihl.